Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be discussing my favorite romance reads, and this is going to be contemporary reads as well as some fantasy, so a little bit of sci-fi, things like that, where I just love the romance in these books just in time for Valentine's Day. So in case you're looking for something really heartwarming to read that'll kind of cheer you up, since Valentine's Day is on a Friday and I feel like people might be doing Valentine's Day themed things all the way through the weekend, I thought here were my favorite reads. And also, in case you're watching this later, just here are my favorite romance books thus far. It was really hard to narrow them down, but here are my favorites. If you are new to this channel, I talk so much about books, I do tons of reading vlogs, and I also talk a lot about e-readers. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button to stick around for more. And of course, if this is not your first video with me, then thank you for coming back. Please give me a little thumbs up just to know that you are back. So our very first book that I have for you, if I could suggest one book to you to read that is in the romance category, it is The 7-Year Slip. This is about a magical apartment, and there is a 7-year time slip. I'm going to link all these books in the description too, just in case you want to read any of them and you quickly want to find them. But this one, I had to get a physical copy. I read it on my Kindle, but I had to get a physical copy just to have it on my shelf because it makes me so happy. There is a magical apartment with a 7-year time slip where these two people meet, but they don't get to control when they see each other, and they have to figure out what's going on. There's just so many aspects of this that I felt like I was watching a movie, but it was heart-wrenching, and it also made my heart so happy at the same time. So this is a definite 6-star book for me. And if you read nothing else from this video, please read The 7-Year Slip. And by the way, also, please leave suggestions. If I don't have them in this video, leave them in the comments, because other people can check your comments and see your romance suggestions. And don't spoil them, but maybe give us a little bit of like what's going on with the genre, what you like about it. And you can even post, like if you have a video about it or something, or a review, you could even post a link. So that will be a good thing for us all to be able to see each other's. So 7-Year Slip, let me know if you've read it. It's amazing. The next one I read last December, and it's called The Serpent and the Wolf. And this one is such an interesting slow burn. If you like enemies to lovers and you want to read a book where people really have to heal and go through things, and it's a very slow build on the relationship. It's definitely not insta-love. This one is for you. Like, this one really addresses mental health issues. It addresses some OCD. It addresses anxiety. It is a fantasy, and it kind of reminds me of like Game of Thrones and a lot of other fantasy books put together, quite honestly, but it was really unique, had a really good magic system, and I just absolutely adored the two main characters in this book so much because of what they went through. So I don't want to spoil anything, but slow burn, enemies to lovers, addresses like real life things in a fantasy, ironically. This one is amazing. It's pretty new. The next one is the second book in the Powerless series by Lauren Roberts. It is Reckless. I particularly loved the romance in this book. You do need to read Powerless before you read Reckless, but if you have read Powerless and you haven't gotten to Reckless yet, this one is amazing for the romance, but unfortunately it does leave you on a cliffhanger for book 3. So pros and cons with that one. The next one is Phantasma by Callie Smith. And this one is, I would consider it to be a dark romance. It's about this contest where she has to enter to save her sister. It has like this dark gothic undertone, and it's very, very, very dark. It's kind of grotesque in some of the scenes, but in a really fascinating way. And the way that the romance unfolds, I was left speechless when the twisted. So the romance is just sweet, but also really spicy, and it just also is a bit of a slow burn. So this one, highly recommend it. And this one has a sequel coming out called Enchantra in April. Okay, Quicksilver. This one is wild. If you get the audio, I'm going to warn you to not listen to it in your car at full volume, because other people will be able to hear it, and it is absolutely insane. I'm talking about like the graphic audio where it's the two people where it's a duet and they read it to you. It is spicy. It's really good, but it's really spicy. There's a reason it's like $45 on Audible, and you just have to get a credit and then pay for it. That way, don't pay the $45 or get it on KU and then it'll be less. But I have this physical copy because this is the indie printed cover, and so I listened to it because I kept getting stuck at certain points. But this one's another like slow burn, really good payoff, where I feel like if you're looking for something, like maybe you've read ACOTAR and you're looking for something, or you've read Onyx Storm, like you're just trying to get out of that, you know, hangover, Quicksilver is going to do it for you. The magic system is amazing, and the way that the two main characters' magic works together is just magical. I love their relationship. I love the banter. It's kind of an enemies to lovers thing, but it's also kind of a fated situation. And there's a bargain. It's just this whole thing where they have more than meets the eye, but there's a lot of chemistry in this book. For people who love spicy romance books, but you want it in a fantasy, that is Quicksilver for you. Okay, the next one is Bride. This one took me a long time to read, but this one's a paranormal romance. I know I've been giving you a lot of fantasy, and I'm going to give you some more contemporaries here in a second, but this one is kind of in between. Like, it's set in the real world, but it's definitely a romance. It kind of is reminiscent of Twilight. So if you like Twilight and that was a big phase for you, Bride is the next thing that you should go to. If you're looking for something that's a bit different than contemporary and you don't want to go full fantasy, this one is like paranormal. So I'd highly recommend Bride. They also have like it's a vampire werewolf situation, and there's obviously like forbidden romance. It's a very slow burn. I love the way that they interact with each other. So this one, it was also, there were kind of like 50 Shades of Grey elements, but not in a creepy, spicy way. Just like 50 Shades, the later movies. I don't want to spoil anything. Next is The Paradise Problem. It's, for some reason, not letting me make the Kindle cover larger, so I'm just going to show you guys this way. But the cover is beautiful, so I'm going to put the link below so you can see it. This is my paperwhite, so it's not the colorsoft because the colorsoft is charging right now. But The Paradise Problem is this absolutely magical book where these two are kind of an arranged marriage. They go to an island. There's a whole thing they have to fake for his family. And that one was just, The Paradise Problem was just such a joy to read, like an absolute joy. If you read no other books, I guess I will narrow this down to The 7-Year Slip and The Paradise Problem. Maybe my top two romance, just straight up romance books, Paradise Problem and 7-Year Slip. I wish I had this one in a physical copy, but I am actually waiting for the paperback. The color of this physical book is the most beautiful indigo. It is my favorite color in the entire world. And this book is so funny, but so good at the same time. Like, it's just there's so much substance and so much humor. This is about a couple of people and their exes leave them and decide to get married. So the two of them are forced to be each other's roommates, and thus the reason why it's kind of a funny story. And so they end up even getting invited to their ex's wedding. So there's a whole thing. It's hilarious. They have to go through a bunch of things. And I loved this. He became one of my favorite book boyfriends. So this is another really good contemporary. And if you are not a big Emily Henry fan, I would still suggest this. Like, I don't love Emily Henry books. There are people who absolutely love her books and people who are like, I don't get the hype. I didn't really get the hype on Emily Henry books until this book. So this really changed the game for me. This is my very favorite Emily Henry book that I have ever read, and I've read a few of them and been like, I kind of get it, but it's run of the mill for me, I hate to say. But this one, 6 stars. Absolutely loved it. So I guess this would be number 3 in my, I'm doing this way out of order, but it kind of makes it fun. You never know what's coming next, right? Okay, Happily Never After. It's not letting me make this one big either because it was a library book. So Happily Never After is a book about 2 people who become wedding objectors, and they're hired to do that. So it's by Lynn Painter. They have to go on a bunch of different trips and things like that to object to these weddings that they've been hired to purposely object to, because these people don't want to get married, but they don't want to get out of their marriage themselves. So they have these two people come do it, and I'm sure you can see where this is going with kind of a slow burn situation. The next one is about a plane crash and the aftermath. This one has a dual timeline and dual perspective. It is by Rebecca Yarros, who wrote Fourth Wing. So if you really liked Fourth Wing, or maybe you haven't read Fourth Wing yet and you just want kind of more of a contemporary romance, this one's like a military contemporary romance, but it starts with a plane crash, so it really gets you into the story right away. And this book, I think I read it in 2 nights, and I think I stayed up until like 4 a.m. and I was bawling my eyes out by the end. Like, there's just something about Rebecca Yarros' writing that just gets you. And she does a really, really, really good job with different perspectives, unfolding the story. She's really good with military stories as well, because I think her husband was in the military for quite a few years. So she was a military wife, and there's a lot of that. This book just wrenched my heart out in the best way possible. So this one is really, really good. I am kind of afraid of flying, so this was a bit spooky for me in the beginning, but kind of also was funny because the way that things happen and the way that one of them is also afraid of flying. So funny, not funny, but this one was really, really good. It's called In the Likely Event, and I think it's on Kindle Unlimited. Okay, this one's kind of niche, but this one is like a Viking romance where one of them gets captured in enemy territory, and so it's again kind of like an enemies to lovers kind of situation. And the way this one was written, I just love Adrienne Young's books so much. I read this one years ago, and now I want to read everything that Adrienne Young puts out because it was just so good. So Sky in the Deep, again, if you love Vikings, it's a little bit of fantasy. I think there's a little bit of maybe magic, or it's like mythology magic, that kind of a thing. And there's also like a long lost relative situation that there's a twist. If you kind of like thrillers, maybe you're not wanting to go full fantasy, but you want to go kind of a little bit into mythology, this one was really, really good. I feel like there are probably so many that I'm missing, but we're just gonna have to end this video somewhere, or else it's gonna be incredibly long. I still need to do my favorites of all time, so some of these will be included in that and some of these won't. But this one is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition of One Dark Window. I know it doesn't say that, but it's just a really, really, really pretty cover. I think I have a members only video where I unboxed this one, and Two Twisted Crowns, which is the sequel in the duology. So this is 2 books. You can see it has really pretty end papers, but it is called One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This one might be one of my, I never stop talking about this book because it changed my brain chemistry. The romance in this book is specifically so incredible because of the way that it unfolds. It's like nothing else. I can't even describe it. It's just such a deep romance, and they understand each other so well that at times they don't even need words, and it's just the way that they are. Like, it is just one of the deepest romances. It's not the spiciest, but it is one of the deepest romances that I have ever read. It is truly touching. It is amazing. I need to reread it really soon. And this one is a fantasy. It's like a gothic fantasy. But if you're afraid, I don't know, if you're afraid of gothic fantasy, or you're just afraid of fantasy, or you're like gothic, I don't know if I need that, I would just pick this up. Just read the sample. Like, if you have a Kindle, I dare you to click the link in the description and read the Kindle sample or something like that, because I just feel like everyone should read this book. So please give it a try and let me know what you think. And the last one, could we do a romance one without Fourth Wing? Look at the little quote on the top. Sexy and sizzling, prepare to be spellbound by this epic fantasy. So this one is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. It's the first book in the Empyrean series, or the Fourth Wing series, and Onyx Storm just came out. This one is incredible. It is absolutely insane. This is really the book that got me back into reading and had me actually buying a new Kindle, because I was so excited to read more after reading this book. If you're somebody that doesn't like fantasy, but you like romance and you want to get into fantasy, or just read a fantasy that's not for fantasy readers, if that makes sense. It's not like it's low fantasy or anything like that, but it's just accessible fantasy. And the romance is really a huge plot. Like, you need the fantasy to be able to get through this book. And it's such a special connection. If you liked ACOTAR, or maybe if you didn't even like ACOTAR and you're like, that was too much fantasy for me, this one feels more accessible, and their relationship, the way that it grows and the way that you find things out and how they're just there for each other during certain events and the bond that's built. There's so many different layers to the bond. And if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to spoil anything. So if you are someone who was kind of worried about this book because it's a fantasy book, but then you ended up reading it, let me know in the comments too, because I know there are a few of you, and I know there are a few of you who want to jump on this train. So this I would really recommend. It is pretty spicy. The next one and the one after that gets spicier, I think I want to say, but this one's pretty good, and it is one of my favorite books of all time. And it has the cute little dragons on the side. So the graphic audio, the one where they have them acting it out, is apparently really good for this one too. So if you didn't like the regular narrator, maybe try the graphic audio, because I've heard it's absolutely fantastic. So those are my favorite romance books. Again, I think I could go on and on and on if I just flip through my Kindle and went through my bookshelf, but these were just my immediate grabs and the ones that I found that I was like, I have to suggest these to all of you, especially for Valentine's Day, or just if you're looking for a book that's a romance book in general. Here are some that are, you know, some contemporary, some fantasy. Anyway, before this video is 30 minutes long, those are my recommendations. Please leave yours in the comments, and thank you so much for watching this video. So I will see you soon for the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Happy reading.